Inside this box is the cheapest desktop that we sell. And today, we're putting it through its paces.
Okay, I'm jumping straight into benchmarks and performance. A heads up, I'm not going to be deep diving these benchmarks. On screen, you will see the average FPS along with 1% lows and 0.1% lows. And I will verbally convey to you my experience playing these games, coming from someone who uses a really nice gaming computer and plays at 1440p with high frame rates. If you want to know about games that I didn't test or have preferences about how this should be done in the future, let me know. But personally, I'd rather just tell you whether or not I think a game is playable than go over a bunch of charts and graphs. Starting with Fortnite. The game played a lot better than I did. I don't know if I've touched this game in the last 6 years, but I can honestly say this belongs in the great tier, if not the S tier, if you're not trying to play competitive. I went with 1080p with low to medium settings, and I never felt like the computer held me back. I felt like my skill held me back. Okay, not even skill. I destroyed this dude. It was knowledge when I didn't understand fall damage. CS2 had the highest overall numbers of anything I tested, and the only thing stopping me from putting this in the S tier is that I know for a fact that people will be typing in the comments that an average of 89 FPS isn't high enough to be truly competitive. But it is enough to play the game and have a fun time. Plus, if you're just opening cases, you don't need high frame rates anyways. Rounding out our battle royales, PUBG was extremely playable, both in combat and just running around in the world. I was impressed by the performance and optimization, but considering there's a mobile version, maybe I should have expected this. GTA 5 is the only game I played which I would truly call S tier. Not only was the performance exceptional at 1080p, but I thought to myself, damn, this looks really good. Then I checked the settings and realized textures were set to high. If this is how older AAA games with proper optimization run, you could have almost unlimited potential as a patient gamer playing older games. But this trend is about to end as soon as we look at newer games, starting with Pal World, which technically was playable as long as you're okay with 720p, windowed mode, and the absolute lowest settings. But I can't, in good conscience, recommend this, because those results were playing in a fresh world with very little going on. Once I jumped into a save with 10 pals slaving away, grinding on my behalf, things dropped down a little bit. So I hesitate to suggest this game, because if you put 30 or 50 or 80 plus hours into this, I think you'd run into a point where you've expanded way too far for the world to run on this system. At this point, I wanted to see something new and poorly optimized, so I loaded up Tarkov's newest spin-off, Arena. And boy, was it unplayable. The average FPS actually maintained to a point that wasn't dreadful at 720p, but the moment I shot my gun, the FPS tanked to the point that getting a kill or staying alive was almost impossible. Strong, do not recommend. Finally, I wanted to see a game that was brand new and looked good but not great, so I booted up Starfield. And even though the game hit an FPS that I consider playable at 720p for this type of game, I could not put up with this for more than a few minutes. This is one of the worst looking games I've ever seen on low settings. It's unplayable. Oblivion on the Xbox 360 genuinely looks better. With that aside, I didn't formally record thermals or noise levels. I can just tell you anecdotally, the PC stayed extremely quiet in every game I tried with the stock cooler, and physically sitting next to it, I did not notice any level of heat coming from the PC. This was an extremely reasonable experience. Okay, so the real question is, who is this PC for? I would say anyone who wants a rock-solid machine and is looking to do light gaming. Or Someone looking for a gaming PC who's willing to take the leap and upgrade the computer just a little bit. The Ryzen 5600G in this machine had way better built-in graphics than I've ever expected. But if you wanted to raise your settings, resolution, or just have the ability to play anything on the planet, you're going to want to throw in a graphics card later down the line. But if you can't afford that right now, this is a pretty good interim option until you get there. Back to you, Sonny.
So with all of that in mind, let's walk through the rest of the build and see what you're getting. Keep in mind, you are getting our lifetime parts and labor warranty, and this is in our ready to ship section, meaning that if this is in stock, which it is right now, we can get these things shipped in 1 business day. So check out the link in the description. The case is from Fractal Design. It's the Focus 2 RGB, and I'm a big fan of the case. Okay, I'm a big fan of Fractal in general. They're one of my favorite case manufacturers, and they did a few things in this case that I think are really cool, especially considering the budget. For starters, the case is actually a little upgradable. There are accessories to add more drives at the bottom, and you have the option to add a 10 gig USB-C front panel connector, which is actually really nice because USB-C adds significantly to the cost, and most budget motherboards still don't have USB-C front panel connectors, so it saves you some cash on a feature that most people don't use. The motherboard, A, features Wi-Fi, huge. B, even bigger, is an AM4 socket, which means that you have some crazy good choices for upgrades without replacing your motherboard or RAM. AMD's been supporting the hell out of these chips, releasing new CPUs this year, 7 years after the initial release of the platform. That being said, if you did add a graphics card, the 5600G is a solid processor and it's not going to hold you back as much as you might think. Okay, power supplies seem boring until you buy a cheap, terrible one and it bricks your system. That's not happening with the Deepcool. I can already hear you typing, 750 watts is total overkill for a build that doesn't have a graphics card. And that's actually kind of on purpose. That extra wattage is allowing you to slot in almost any graphics card on the planet, and you won't have to worry about upgrading the power supply or rewiring the entire computer. For RAM, we have 16 gigabytes of T-Force Delta. 16 gigs of RAM is enough for a vast majority of gamers, and it's enough for photography or basic to moderate video editing. Finally, your operating system is going to be installed on a 500 gigabyte NVMe SSD, so your startup is going to be lightning fast, and you're going to have room for a few games on your base drive. That is, unless you're a Warzone player. So in summation, is this the craziest gaming PC around? No, of course not. But it gets the job done. It will get you playing games and you have your foot in the door with a foundation that you can build off of in a huge variety of ways without breaking the bank. All while maintaining the same level of quality and commitment to support we offer on everything that we sell. So our ready to ship section is full of PCs in every price range. What else do you want to see? We have a couple more of these lined up, but I want to know what you're interested in.